You launched Wikipedia back in 2001 with Larry and others. Many founders here are at FIBE too. Can you tell us what it was like to be a founder back then? Because right now it's very different.
Yeah, well, I think it is very different to be a founder today than it was in 2001, but not as different as people might imagine. The great thing about technological innovation is there's always something new, there's always new opportunities. At the time, in 2001, it was still very much the early days of, not quite the early days of the internet, but the early days of social things online. I mean, we always joke we were Web 2.0 before they came up with the term Web 2.0. Whereas today, when we look at things that are happening in AI with large language models and image generation and all the other deeper AI, we're at the very beginning, and so there's always the opportunity to spot something that other people haven't seen, to get involved in an early stage startup, and so forth. So I think it's an exciting time to be an entrepreneur. And some of the fundamentals of being a founder never change. That sort of nervousness, is your family going to, will your parents think you're crazy because you didn't take the job at the bank, and so on and so forth. That's part of the human condition, but also just the excitement and, of course, managing, inspiring, leading people, that's human, that's been the same forever. So it's not as different as it used to be.
Okay, and what do you think? You said it's not as different, but what do you think are the biggest challenges founders face today?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest challenges are probably things I already mentioned. It's sort of having the courage to actually do it. So one thing a lot of people do is they're constantly writing business plans, but they never actually take that first step. So that lean startup methodology, just getting started, is so important. Just to give a test, just to try something, just to float the idea to see if it makes any sense. Because if you're only in your own head, you're not sure. And then, once you're going, the challenges are always about people. You've got this great vision and you've brought together a great team, but then somebody's kind of a jerk and some people are arguing, and you have to kind of figure out, okay, how do I get us all back on the same page and how do we move forward? So they're classic.
So would you actually say that the challenges are more about people and less about funding, if you had to pick one?
I would say in general, yeah, I think the challenges are definitely more about people and less about funding, although funding can be a challenge as well. But there's always funding for good ideas. That generally is true. Obviously, there's good years and bad for that. And there's a lot of ways to get things wrong in that space as well. But getting the right people, getting the right team together is really the hard part.